In 2003, a shocking case gripped the public in Malaysia. A 28-year-old female IT analyst and Taekwondo black belt mysteriously disappeared after attending an evening party. Through an in-depth investigation, the mystery gradually unraveled, but the truth behind it sent shivers down many spines. The incident took place in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, one of Malaysia's two capitals, and its most populous city with a population of approximately 2 million people. The protagonist of this story was named Ken Yan, also known as Ang Kian Yoon. For brevity, I'll refer to her as Ang Yoon. Born on July 18, 1974, she was of mixed Chinese-Indian heritage in Malaysia. Her father, Ang Mi Chung, was a high school principal. Her mother, Pearlie, was of Indian descent and also a teacher. Ang Yoon was a beautiful and successful young woman. In the eyes of her family and friends, she was well-behaved, polite, caring, and filial. Besides her striking appearance, she loved sports, especially Taekwondo, and had achieved the rank of black belt, the highest level in the sport. Despite her martial arts prowess, she was also academically gifted. In 1995, after graduating high school with excellent grades, she left Malaysia to study information technology at the University of California in the United States. She later became an outstanding IT analyst after graduation. During her time working in the US, she met a handsome Chinese-American man named Wang Yi Tian. The beautiful couple was the envy of many. In 2001, they got married. After their marriage, they lived very happily, with high incomes and a bright future for their small family. In early 2003, her father was diagnosed with cancer during a health checkup. Fortunately, his condition was discovered relatively early and the success rate for treatment was quite high. When she learned that her father had a relatively rare form of cancer and needed a risky surgery, she dropped everything to return to Malaysia to care for him. Family was the most precious thing in her heart. On June 1, 2003, she flew from the United States back to Malaysia and meticulously cared for her father in the hospital. She was with him through the surgery. Fortunately, the surgery was successful, and his health recovered relatively well, which brought her great relief. After more than 10 days of caring for her father, she saw that his condition was very good and had improved significantly. Therefore, she planned to return to work in the United States on June 14th. Everything was going well, and everyone in the family decided to throw a farewell party before she left Malaysia. But no one could imagine that a tragedy would suddenly befall her after the farewell party. So what happened to her on that day? Next, we will rewind time to June 13, 2003. On June 13, 2003, the day before Ang Yoon was to leave Malaysia and return to the United States, her family held a farewell party for her. The party included only family members and some close friends. The venue was a restaurant at the Bangsar shopping center. At that time, the shopping center's basement parking lot was quite deserted and dark due to broken lights. Because they were running late, the mother and daughter rushed up to the restaurant after parking. On the way, she suddenly remembered that she had forgotten to take the parking ticket from the car. At that time, most parking lots in Malaysia had a different payment method than what we might be used to. You would take a ticket at the entrance and then pay the parking fee at another location, usually not at the exit, so you always had to carry your parking ticket with you. At that moment, she told her mother, "It's okay, I'll go back and get it after dinner." When the two arrived at the restaurant, the others had already arrived, and everyone had a joyful dinner. Ang Yoon seemed to have endless conversations with friends she hadn't seen in years. At 10 p.m., even though she wanted to stay longer with her friends, seeing that her mother was tired, she decided to take her mother home to rest first and then return later. She then left with her mother and sister. While Ang Yoon, her mother, and sister were queuing at the payment counter, she suddenly realized she had left the ticket in the car. After telling her mother and sister to wait, she quickly entered the elevator and went down to the basement. The distance from the queue to the parking area was not far. But 20 minutes passed, and her mother and sister still hadn't seen her return. They called her phone, but she didn't answer. Feeling worried, the two decided to go down to the parking lot and unexpectedly discovered that her car was gone, and so was she. They rushed back to the restaurant to report the news. Many consecutive calls to her phone went unanswered. After many calls, the phone was finally turned off. They remembered that the parking basement had security cameras. They immediately rushed down and asked the security guard to check the surveillance video. But according to regulations, you could only check surveillance cameras after midnight. Finally, after much pleading from everyone, the security guard agreed to let them check the video surveillance. And what appeared on the screen shocked everyone.
The screen showed that at 10:16 p.m., as Ang Yuen was fumbling to find her parking ticket, a strange man approached from behind and choked her. Although Ang Yuen was a Taekwondo black belt, she was only skilled in sports competitions, not in real combat. At that moment, she tried to resist fiercely. After being fought back, the man attacked her repeatedly in the abdomen and chest, paralyzing her for a moment. Then, the man dragged her into the car and drove away. The car sped through the parking lot and broke through the barrier. However, due to the dim lighting, the surveillance camera could not clearly capture the abductor's face. After witnessing her daughter being kidnapped, Miss Pearly called the police. Unwilling to sit and wait for the police, everyone decided to drive back and forth across Kuala Lumpur to search for her. After hours of fruitless searching, at 4 a.m., her mother and sister decided to return. They were exhausted after a night of driving around the city looking for her, and now they could only rely on the police. For 2 consecutive days, neither the police nor Ang Yuen's family had any clues, so her family decided to seek media assistance for coverage. They released many missing person announcements and offered a 10,000 ringgit reward, which is about 50 million Vietnamese dong. The incident attracted public attention beyond imagination, putting immense pressure on the Malaysian police. On June 16th, a patrol officer reported that a car with the same license plate was found next to the Bao Huang construction site. The police immediately arrived at the scene, but were startled by the car. The front of the car was damaged, probably from hitting the parking lot railing the night before. One of the front wheels of the car was damaged. It seemed the car had hit something while accelerating suddenly, causing the tire to separate. The most frightening thing was a pool of blood was found in the back seat of the car. At the same time, traces of semen were also found. It seemed Ang Yuen had been raped and severely injured in the car. The police then searched the surroundings, but found nothing. The police also tried calling her phone. Unexpectedly, a man answered. The police then quickly located and found the man. The person holding her phone was Azizan Ismail. He was a driver. Under police interrogation, he stated that early on June 14th, while driving to work, as he approached the industrial park, he saw a car parked by the roadside. Coincidentally, his seat was broken, so he got out of the car to find a piece of wood to support the seat. Incidentally, he saw an unclothed girl in the back seat and a man sitting in the driver's seat. At that time, he thought it was just a couple making love and didn't think much of it. A while later, the car left. After driving and running some errands, on his way home, he saw the car that had left earlier parked in the same spot. He wondered if there was any eye candy to admire. Therefore, he decided to get out of his car and approach the other car. But when he looked inside, he didn't see anyone, only a handbag and a girl's cell phone on the back seat. Seeing no one around, greed got the better of him, and he reached through the car door, took the handbag and the cell phone, and left. After multiple investigations, the police found he had no connection to Ang Yuen. His physique was also different from the man recorded by the camera. He even used Ang Yuen's phone. Could it be that he tied his own noose? After consideration, the police cleared him as a suspect and considered him a witness.
On June 17th, 4 days after Ang Yuen's disappearance, about 2 kilometers from where the car was found, a construction foreman accidentally smelled a foul odor in a drain next to the road. Curious, he opened it and found a burnt body inside. He panicked and called the police. The police then quickly arrived at the scene. At the scene, a burnt body was found with 2 tires under the drain. The hands were clasped across the chest, and most of the body was charred. After forensic examination, forensic doctors concluded that the victim died from 2 stab wounds to the abdomen. The arson was solely for the purpose of destruction. The victim was brutally raped multiple times before death, causing severe damage to the private parts. Forensic doctors then successfully extracted DNA from semen in the victim's body. To identify whether the victim was Ang Yuen, the police invited her best friend Natasha and her sister to the hospital. Upon seeing the body, her sister immediately recognized the unburned jeans. Those were the jeans she lent to Ang Yuen for dinner. Through DNA confirmation, it was confirmed that the body was indeed Ang Yuen. A woman named Amina Isaac reported to the police that in the early morning of June 14th, she coincidentally met a strange man whose car had a flat tire. He knocked on her car door and asked to borrow tools to change the tire. At that time, she agreed. Furthermore, her younger brother, who was also in the car at the time, got out to help the man change the tire. When preparing to change the tire, she noticed a girl sitting in the passenger seat in the back of the car. The girl in the car clasped her hands and looked at her as if pleading for something. Seeing this, she got out of the car and approached the girl, intending to ask what was wrong. The man, seeing this, panicked. He immediately stopped changing the tire, jumped into the car, and drove away. At that moment, she realized something was wrong and recorded the license plate number FN6871. This was Ong Yoon's license plate number. And on the night of June 13th, the night Ong Yoon disappeared at around 11:15 p.m., Ravi Chagan, an undercover police officer on patrol with his colleague, discovered a blue car parked by the roadside. This was quite normal, so he didn't pay much attention. But more than 30 minutes later, when they patrolled the same area again, they still saw the car parked there. So he approached and knocked on the car door to ask what was going on. Under the dim light, he saw a man sitting in the driver's seat inside the car. The passenger seat next to him had a girl who looked somewhat nervous. So he asked them to present their identification. The two people in the car cooperated well and presented their identification. While checking the documents, he saw the girl next to him make a series of strange gestures. She clasped her hands across her chest as if pleading for something. Seeing that something was wrong, he immediately asked the girl to get out of the car for questioning. When the girl was about to open the door to get out, the man suddenly became arrogant and shouted at the police, "You are fake police. You are robbers." After cursing, he slammed the car windows shut and drove away. The police then drew their pistols and fired 2 shots at the car. One shot hit a tire, but the car still sped away and disappeared into the night. Due to the suddenness of the incident, the police did not record the license plate number, but fortunately, the police still had the 2 identification cards of the 2 people in the car. Because at that time, news of Ong Yoon's kidnapping had not yet spread, they did not realize the importance of the 2 cards. They also submitted the 2 cards to their superiors, and no one paid attention. It wasn't until the news spread that they re-examined the 2 identification cards. One person was named Ahmad Najib bin Adib, and the other was Ong Yoon. The police immediately began searching for the man. The police checked the address on the identification card and found that the address was incorrect, and the identification card was fake. This made the police even more confused. They only knew the man's name and had no other information. Finally, the police had to trace his name at the marriage registry and the Social Security Department, and they finally got a result. The information showed that he was 27 years old, working for an aircraft cleaning company, and also serving as a manager. They also found his wife's information and home address. To avoid alerting him, the police set up an ambush near his home. After 3 days of ambushing, the police could not see him appear alone, only his wife entering and exiting the apartment. At 4 a.m. on June 20th, the police finally saw him get out of a taxi and walk home. The police quickly approached and successfully arrested him. Initially, the police thought he must be an extremely wicked person to act so brutally. But in reality, when he was arrested by the police, he did not resist. His expression was very calm and even had a slight smile on his face, not looking like a murderer at all. After investigation, the police found that Najib was a devout Christian and actually had no prior criminal record. His family life was very happy. Najib himself was the director of an aircraft cleaning company, his wife was a senior bank employee, and they had a 3-year-old child. At that time, his wife was also 3 months pregnant with another baby. Logically, it was unclear why Najib would commit such a crime within such a happy family.
The police that obtained a search warrant for his house and found a blue jacket and blue jeans with bloodstains in his house. With the clothes, the semen DNA, and the confirmation from Officer Ravi, he chose to confess everything. To reconstruct the entire incident, he even led the police to the underground parking lot of the shopping mall and explained his entire crime process. He stated that on the night of June 13th, he accidentally saw Ong Yoon, who was sexy and beautiful, passing by. Overcome by animalistic urges, he followed the mother and daughter's car on a motorcycle. After reaching the parking lot, he found that there was another person in the car, so he couldn't do anything. Not giving up, he left his motorcycle on the street and waited for an opportunity in the parking lot. After hours of waiting, he was delighted to see Ong Yoon walking alone to the parking lot. When he saw her looking for something in the front seat, he immediately rushed forward and subdued her with a knife. Fearing detection, he drove the car straight through the barrier and fled. He stated that he raped her a total of 2 times. Finally, because the victim continuously resisted, he stabbed her in the abdomen with the knife. Seeing her dying, he panicked and didn't know what to do. So he tied her up with fabric strips. Then, seeing an uncovered drain by the roadside, he decided to put her body down the drain. At the same time, he also threw in 2 cement-filled tires and used a few planks to cover the hole and then hastily fled the scene. The next day, he returned with gasoline and lit the fire, burning the body. Logically, once he confessed to the crime, the case should have concluded. But everything afterwards was not so simple. After his confession, Najib's family hired a famous lawyer named Muhammad Hanif for his defense. In the subsequent court hearing, Najib retracted all his previous confessions, claiming that they were coerced. In fact, he was innocent. He stated that the police had threatened him that if he did not confess, his wife, children, and parents would be imprisoned. This situation was unimaginable for everyone. However, even if he denied it, evidence such as bloodstains on clothes and semen DNA were difficult to refute. But the lawyer did not think so. He argued that these pieces of evidence were only indirect. No one saw Najib commit the murder. The lawyer also pointed out some contradictions in the initial statements. The surveillance camera system in the basement parking lot was broken. It was impossible to see clearly, and it was not certain that the person in the picture was Najib. Even if the man was him, it could not prove that he kidnapped her. Perhaps she went with him voluntarily. Ong Yoon was a Taekwondo black belt while he was just an ordinary person. It was illogical for a high-level martial artist to be kidnapped by an ordinary person. Throughout the entire incident, Ong Yoon clearly had 2 opportunities to be saved. Once was when she met the police. She could have opened the door and fled, but she didn't. Another time was when he went to borrow tools to fix the flat tire. She was clearly alone in the car, but did not choose to open the door and flee. The police found blood-stained pants at Najib's house. The lawyer believed that the pants were problematic. Since the police did not measure the specific size, they could not confirm that the jeans belonged to him. There was ample evidence that Ong Yoon was sexually assaulted, but Najib said that she had consensual relations with him. Regarding the cause of Ong Yoon's death, the lawyer believed it was a consensual relationship between the 2 of them. They had too much fun in their excitement, leading to a tragic death. After the lawyer's arguments were presented, the incident caused a stir in public opinion. While most people thought the lawyer was intentionally defending a criminal, some other people also questioned whether Najib was the real culprit. Criminal psychologists then explained each doubt raised by the lawyer. The psychologist stated that Taekwondo is just a sport whose primary purpose is physical training. However, there is a significant difference in the physical strength of men and women. Additionally, Ong Yoon was bent over in the car, and he threatened her with a knife, making it difficult for her to resist. Although she was a black belt, it didn't mean she could handle unexpected attacks. When encountering a Taekwondo practitioner with a weapon, women often experience great fear and dare not run away. A state of panic will prevent her from thinking of various solutions like an outsider would. Besides the DNA evidence, there were still many other witnesses. Although they did not see him murder her, they all saw him with her from beginning to end. That was difficult to refute. On February 23, 2005, after 52 days of trial, The judge, based on numerous physical evidence and the testimony of dozens of witnesses, the court declared Najib guilty of murder and sexual assault. He was sentenced to death for murder, 20 years in prison for sexual assault, and fined an additional 10 lashes. He told the court that he accepted the court's decision but would appeal the sentence. In 2007, the court rejected his appeal. In 2009, he pleaded for mercy. He wanted his death penalty changed to life imprisonment, but the request was denied. In September 26, 2016, he took his own life in prison. After the incident, some changes were made to prevent such tragedies from happening again. For example, some large shopping mall parking lots established women-only parking areas, installed more surveillance equipment, and added emergency call buttons in buildings, etc. However, these facilities and measures can only reduce crime, not eliminate it entirely. Regardless of gender, as long as we go out, we must always be careful and vigilant. This video ends here, and I'll see you in the next case. Goodbye.